Next, I want to jump into a little bit about alerting and things like that. And like I said, we do a lot of performance assessments and find out along the way that people don't have things configured in a way that they know that things are failing. Now, some of these jobs, we want to know if they fail. Others, well, it's not as big of a deal. And that's something that you have to decide along the way. But one of the things, for instance, that is important is the database integrity check, system databases, and user databases. Now, one of the most expensive services that we offer is database corruption repair. And we can help you if you get a corrupt database, but we would rather not bill you for 4 days of corruption repair. We'd rather help you get that figured out quicker than that. So the reason I'm bringing this up is that a lot of the corruption repair clients that we've worked with thought they had CheckDB running, or actually did have CheckDB running with something like this database integrity check, and it had been failing for 4 or 5 or 6 weeks, and they didn't know about it because they didn't have alerting configured. So setting up alerting is important, and what you can do to take a look at that is you can go into the job setup. There's a section under notifications, and we can set it up to go to a specific email. Now, this server doesn't have email configured on it. Let me switch to my other test server here that does have email configured. Notifications, here it's set to go to an email. This is an operator named Steve, that's me, and to notify me when the job fails. I've seen people sometimes notify whenever the job completes, success or failure. That's a personal preference. I don't like it because I'd rather only know about it when it fails. I mean, I trust that it's going to be running the rest of the time. So notify when the jobs fail, and I like to set that up on almost every single job. Occasionally there'll be one that we know isn't so important and occasionally might fail, but something like CheckDB or rebuilding indexes, all that kind of stuff, I want to know for sure when the job fails. So I want to have that notify me. Where that gets set up down here is under operators. And an operator is simply just an alias that defines this alias named Steve is going to actually go to this email, steve@stedmansolutions.com. And if you wanted to notify a group distribution list, you could put that in there, or you could put in multiple names separated by semicolons. You need a... Yes, so if we go, I think you said that almost right. Let's go look here into properties. Yeah, mail. You did say mail profile, didn't you? That is right. I was thinking it wrong. So one of the things that we see people do wrong is they set up the agent jobs, they turn on the notification, and then it fails and they never get email. Well, that's because they have not enabled a mail profile here. And the mail profile simply references a SQL Server mail setup, which you can define in a different area that just says this is the SMTP server to be using. And then the mail profile is the name it's going to use, SQL Alerts, and you just have to enable it here. There's other settings you can do to adjust it, but that has to be turned on. If you're not getting any notification out of your SQL Server Agent jobs, it's probably because this was missed on getting it set up. One of the most popular videos on my YouTube channel, not the most popular, but one of them, is configuring database mail. And if you just go look at my YouTube channel and look at all the videos, sort by popularity, it's probably in the top 5, configuring database mail. Let's see, so we've covered that. The other thing that we like to set up with a SQL Server agent is also alerts down here, where we have alerts for error 823, 824, and 825, and severity level 19 through 25. Now, error 823, 24, and 25 generally are errors that if you see these, there's probably something really horribly going wrong with your I/O on your system. If you have a hard drive that's about to fail, or maybe not about to fail, but just failed, and it's running intermittently, things like that, that will start throwing these errors. Errors 823, 24, and 25 are errors that if you ever see them and you care about your SQL Server, you should stop everything you're doing and immediately focus on figuring out what's wrong with SQL Server because of those errors. Now, the way you set up alerts on those is you can go in and double click on these, and you can have the error number in here, but then you set the response. For the response, I want to notify this operator by email, and there's also a pager option if we set that up, but and to notify an operator, or you could have it go do a job, different things like that. But generally, if we're seeing those errors, we want to know about it right away. Now, error 19 through 25 down here are errors that their severity level is related to how bad things really are. So if I'm seeing error number 22 through 25, severity 22 through 25, I'm expecting that something's really bad's going with the system. Severity 21, there's a lot of false positives where, like, if somebody tries to connect and they're actually accidentally using their domain name from their laptop rather than the actual domain they're on or something like that, you get a bunch of false positives on 21. So I'll skip 21 sometimes, but 19 and 20 are usually ones you want to know about as well. So at a minimum, I would say configure 823, 824, and 825, as well as 22 through 25 on the severities here for notification, so you know about it right away.
So let's say someone has a production server, they have their server set up, it's been running for a few years now, and they're just getting around, they just realize they don't have any operators configured for these errors and the severity levels or the database integrity checks. Which ones would you say those need to be set up right now because they're not set up?
I would start at a minimum with error 823, 824, 825, 22 through 25, and then whatever jobs you're using for your database integrity check, for that's running CheckDB, at a minimum you have to notify on those. And I think that, well, and to put it in perspective, like backups, if your backups are failing, yes, that's going to be painful, and it might be even more painful if your system integrity, if you have a corrupt database. They kind of go hand in hand there. But if your database becomes corrupt, that can put you out of business right now. Whereas, yes, backups not happening could put you out of business next week or when you actually need the backups. So yes, I don't know how to say it right. They're super important to have your backups running, but they're not, it's like doing your exercises versus dealing with a heart attack. One of them is going to kill you right now. The other one's going to kill you over time if you don't do it right. So that's where I'd say at a minimum, it would be your database integrity checks and your error levels that we're seeing over here, and then followed immediately by database backups and anything else that's super important for your business there. Okay, so a couple other things to cover here then. One of the things is when you're working with SQL Server Agent Jobs, it's good to be able to understand what's happening when they run. And one of the things we can do is go in, I'm not going to do the database integrity check. I'll do system databases because that one's pretty quick, I think. If we go in and look at the steps, there's some things we can do in here that will give us additional information when they run. So if we go look at the advanced tab on a job step, we have the basics of quit the job reporting success or quit the job reporting failure like we saw, but there's also an output file that it will write to, and you can go view what, oh, the file's not there right now. Oh, maybe, I don't know if this one's running or not, but we'll find out. Or you can do log to table. And you know what? Because this is an integrity check, it might take a little while to run. Let's go back to our demo database, our demo server, and look at our demo test job that we're working on. And in here, when we're editing the steps, like the startup step that we talked about, we can turn on in the advanced section an option to log to a table or to log to a specific output file. If you log to an output file, you can go browse, specify a file name. Log to table, we'll put it in a table in MSDB database and log that it's been run. So I'm going to set that one to log to a table. I'm going to set this one also to log to a table. And by the way, this log to table feature is not incredible by any means. It's real basic. But output file, if you say log to an output file, it will go and you can have it create an output file every time this runs. Log to table will just have it overwrite every time it runs. And if you hit view, you can go see previous views, or you can say append the output and it'll keep appending to the same entry. So what I've done, I've just turned that on for 2 of those. I'm going to run start job at step. I'm going to run this job. I'm going to start it at step 1. And then when that runs, it's going to log into the sysjob step logs table. And we can see now there's 3 entries there. There was DB Health History 1 that was there previously, and then a job demo test 1, and step 1 and step 2. So if we wanted to go see the output from that, we could just copy this from here, open it up into a new tab, and it doesn't do a very good job on carriage return. Actually, there's not a lot of output on that one, but we can go and see that it began, step 1 began executing at this time, and then the 1 rows affected is the only thing that was printed out from that job step. Had there been other output or errors or things like that, you would have seen it here. And this is a handy way to be able to diagnose what's going on with a job. Although I haven't found out a good use for using this log to table on an ongoing basis other than temporarily using it to diagnose problems.